Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Once again, I'm Joe Powells. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Advancement Services. Thank you so much for joining us today for this latest edition of our special virtual event series, Ohio Sense of Place, Exterior Campus Art. We're really excited that so many of you could join us. I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists who are joining us today. Ohio University's Dean of the College of Fine Arts, Matthew Shaftel. Courtney Kessel, the newly appointed Assistant Director of Experiential Design. Lynnea Stevens, and Quinn Hunter. Thank you all for joining us today. Briefly, I would love it if each of our panelists could share with us their personal favorite piece of exterior campus art, and then we'll watch the video that highlights some of the pieces we have here on campus. Quinn?
Good morning, everyone. My favorite piece of exterior art on Ohio University's campus would be the Ginny Holzer bench.
I muted myself. Sorry about that. Courtney?
Sorry, I accidentally muted my speaker. Is it my turn?
Yes. Go ahead, Courtney.
That's a great piece, Quinn. And I guess we're gonna, well, I really enjoy Maya Lynn's piece because of the expansiveness of it and the scale that, that it really, the body can move around. And then I really enjoy the language that's on the pieces too.
Interestingly, and I'm going off script here, I just moved my daughter into Smith College, whose library was designed by Maya Lynn. So it was an interesting little note where we could look at each other and say, hey, she's from Athens. So anyway, thank you. Lynnea?
So probably just because it's a staple of the art building, I really enjoy the Alfred Eldridge Arch, just because it's a very communal space and a lot of like art students gather there and hang out there between classes. And I have a lot of fond memories there.
Thank you. Matthew?
Lynnea took mine, but I'm going to say the front of the art building, which isn't featured in the video, but is important, it features Henry Lynn, who is Maya Lynn's father and was a dean of the College of Fine Arts for many years. It features his pottery built into the front facade of the building. And of course, every time I see that, I think, what could I possibly leave behind as the dean that would compare with that? So, big
Great,
legacy.
thank you. Sorry, Matthew.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say thank you all for sharing. That was fantastic. I'd just like to encourage all of our guests also to share questions or thoughts in the chat, and we'll monitor throughout the event. I know that art on public display is very special to Ohio University, and I look forward to reflecting on the pieces featured in the brief video and others as we enjoy our conversation together later on. So it's now my pleasure to invite you to join us for the premiere of the Ohio Sense of Place Exterior Campus Art video, and then we'll be back with you in a couple minutes. Thanks.
Tucked away in the hills of Appalachia, Athens is full of natural beauty, from the soaring trees to the greenery on campus. Amid this lush environment, extraordinary pieces of exterior art can be found across campus, providing picturesque spaces to gather, relax, and reflect. One of the most famous works of exterior art on campus is the 50 by 80 foot Eldridge mural, towering over the steps of Siegfried Hall's amphitheater. The black and white mural was painted in the 1980s by former beloved Ohio painting professor Ethelred Eldridge and restored in 2015. The center of campus, scenic College Green, is just a short walk south and contains several art pieces. The Athens County Soldiers and Sailors Monument is a prominent fixture of College Green. The 45-foot monument honors the 2,610 citizens in Athens County that served in the Civil War. The steps of the monument have been an ideal gathering place for students and community members to enjoy the shade and lively atmosphere of College Green for generations, a tradition that continues today. Across the red brick walkways of College Green stands the sundial, placed on the lawn in front of Galbraith Chapel. The historical marker indicates where the Athens Academy building once stood. The building was constructed in 1807 and served as the first academic building on campus. The two-story building was demolished in 1841, but the sundial will forever commemorate this critical part of Ohio history. Just yards from the sundial, outside of Alden Library's fourth floor, stands the American Woman. The abundant foliage and benches of Wolf Garden surround the bronze sculpture, creating an idyllic location for students to take a relaxing study break after leaving the library. Installed in 1989, the sculpture was created by former faculty member and nationally recognized sculptor David Hostetler and given to the university by alumna Jeanette Griselli Brown. The base of the statue leaves visitors with the message, "Art is long and life is brief." Outside Alden Library's Park Place entrance sits Albatross, the 2-ton steel sculpture created by 1970 graduate Michael McConnell and placed outside of Alden shortly after it opened. A university news release from 1969 explained that the sculpture repeats in graceful arcs and upward thrusting wings, the vertical linear lines of the new 7-story building. Take a short walk across the street and see a selection from renowned artist and alumna Jenny Holzer's truisms. The artwork, fabricated in 1998 and installed outside Gordy Hall, comprises exterior granite benches and tables displaying a series of modern cliches, calling into question commonly held truths. Our tour continues down Park Place to the corner of Mulberry Street and Richland Avenue, where we find the ever-changing graffiti wall. Students are encouraged to express themselves by painting the wall, which was the former retaining wall of Super Hall that was demolished in 1976. The painted cement wall reflects the energy of the campus community. Over time, the wall has had a wide array of subjects painted on it, including anti-war messages, Bobcat pride, and even marriage proposals. Just near the graffiti wall, tucked outside Bentley Hall, is Poetry Plaza, created by international artist Saya Armajani. Dedicated in 2003, the artwork includes a bronze and mahogany bench, an accent sculpture of terracotta jars, metal railing with original poetry, and 7 pieces with poetry embedded in the ground. Dedicated in 2004, Bicentennial Park's input can be found just a short walk south. The piece, located across from the Convocation Center, is an earthwork installation created by Maya Lin, a world-renowned artist who also created the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. Lin, an Athens native whose mother was an Ohio English professor and father was a dean of the College of Fine Arts, designed the installation to resemble a computer punch card to honor her time studying computer programming at Ohio while in high school. Drew Park, located right outside Peden Stadium, was created in 2003 with support from Ohio employee Scott Blower and Ohio alumna Krista Beagle-Blower, who named the park after their son. The park's realistic sculpture of a bobcat was started by Fred Glover and finished by his son Colin Glover. Today, it proudly sits outside the Sook Academic Center. Farther down South Green Drive is one of Ohio's newest pieces of outdoor art. This brick relief sculpture was designed by retired Ohio employee Tad Gallagher to feature iconic campus buildings, including the Convocation Center. It was chiseled by Brad and Tammy Spencer, who hand-carved 1,750 bricks to complete the project. Installed in 2015, it covers 2 sides of the generator structure that holds the electrical equipment for nearby residence halls. Finally, 2 pieces of exterior art on campus can be found at the Ridges, surrounded by beautiful greenery and historic buildings. Family, created by David Deming, stands in a grassy opening outside the former Athens Mental Health Center and near the main entrance to the Kennedy Museum of Art. The abstract sculpture was donated to the Kennedy Museum in 2008 by generous benefactors Frank and Margaret Krasovek. Gold butte was installed in 2003 and is cast in bronze. Since 1973, the artist Deborah Butterfield has created similar abstract horse sculptures using scrap materials. This piece is tucked behind the Ridges Auditorium in green space near Conacher Research Laboratory. Each of these unique artworks enrich the Athens campus by allowing students, faculty, staff, and community members to enjoy the beauty of both the outdoors and the arts simultaneously. In recent years, the City of Athens has continued to foster art in public spaces through numerous partnerships, and Ohio University is proud to play a role in showcasing these important works. Ohio's extensive collection of exterior art will continue to be valued by future generations of Bobcats for years to come.
I really enjoyed the opportunity to watch that with you all. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I don't know about you all, but I learn a few new things every time I watch an Ohio Sense of Place video, and I hope that you enjoyed learning more about the artwork we enjoy on campus. We know that art in public spaces has an impact on our students and the greater campus and Athens communities, and we're proud to have such special pieces and important installations that help enrich the campus environment. And I know for myself personally, the next time I'm walking down campus, I'll be mindful to pay more attention and not just keep my head down staring at my phone all the time like I normally do. So now I'd like to segue to the panel portion of our time together and introduce again Dean of the College of Fine Arts, Matthew Shaftel. Matthew, perhaps you could start things off. I know you have a unique perspective on the importance of art on the Ohio University campus. Would you mind leading off for us?
Sure. Thanks, Joe. And thank you, everybody, for being here. Obviously, if you're here, you already understand that public art is hugely important to setting a sense of place and identity. I'm always reminded of this particular quote by John F. Kennedy. There is a connection hard to explain logically, but easy to feel between achievement in public life and progress in the arts. The age of Pericles was also the age of Phidias. The age of Lorenzo de' Medici was also the age of Leonardo da Vinci. The age of Elizabeth was also the age of Shakespeare. And what we're seeing here in John F. Kennedy's words is really that the publicness of progress and the publicness of art go hand in hand. And so there is just a really critical importance that public art plays in our life. I want to talk a little bit more about what I think that means. So I want to talk about different ways that public art helps to engage us and makes us identify as a community. So think of the statue on the green. It's iconic. It's part of every student's life. I imagine that many students wouldn't even know that it exists. If you reminded them that there was a statue there, they might forget. But the fact that it is such a part of ourself, and it is so common to go over to Wits and grab an ice cream and move over to the statue, that is such a commonplace occurrence, that gives us a sense of place and identity. If you think about how does our campus rank among other college campuses, our sense of who we are as a residential campus is partly defined by that art. We're regularly ranked as one of the top campuses in America, and I really would contribute that to our sense of who we are through our public art. Obviously, public discourse is a critical part of public art. Think of the Vietnam Memorial and what kind of public discourse that generates, and then translate that to Input Park that was controversial when it was first installed. So it was never actually completed and dedicated until just 2 years ago. And the way we got there is we had a budget gap in the ability to complete Maya's vision for the park, and the president went to each of the colleges, and every college on campus made a donation to support the park because we felt it was important as an entire university to feature that work. Local art boosts economies. Nearly 10% of the Ohio total economic activity, that's our entire gross state product, is arts related, 10%. So obviously making Athens a destination is critical, and helping to do that through artwork is super important. I'm always reminded of Grand Rapids as a model for how public art can transform a city. They spend $3 million a year in prizes for a huge public art festival, but it brings in over 500,000 visitors a year and $33 million in revenue every year. Art, of course, supports learning. It becomes part of our learning in both external and internal places. Certainly for our art students, but also for every student on campus, because we really believe the arts functions as a lens by which we can view everything that we do on campus. And of course, then there's the pride of place. So, Maya Lynn, I mentioned her father's ceramic wall. That's something I think of all the time. Jenny Holzer's work, she is one of the really essential American artists alive today. I was reading Dan Brown's most recent book, Origins, and there's an entire description of her installation at the Guggenheim Museum in Spain. And that's part of the same series that our bench and table belong to have that connection between OU campus and the Guggenheim Museum in Spain is amazing. Jim Dine, one of our alumni and one of the most iconic American artists of our time. If you know the piece, Looking Towards the Avenue on Avenue of the Americas in New York, again, that's connected to the work of our campus. He's an alumnus, and we're so proud. David Hostetler, who was a beloved faculty member for many years, his statues are available in public in so many different locations. But of course, there's the icon, which is in New York City, which is quite famous, but I've seen works by David Hofstetler in almost every sculpture park in America. So there's so much pride, there's so much sense of place, and there's so much value to the work that we see in our public spaces. And I'm really glad to be celebrating it today. So I'm going to turn this over now to Courtney Kessel. Courtney, go ahead.
Thanks, Matthew. Am I introducing people, or are we going through? Well, I would echo Matthew's sentiments, and thank you for sharing all of our amazing alumni that we have had on pass through Ohio University. I have been the gallery director for the past 7 years and have just recently accepted a new position on the university campus that is really, it's hard to let go of that baby, but I'm nearby, so I get to witness it grow and change. So one of the things that I've felt really important about public art is the sense of visibility that it offers. And I think the positionality that public art has the, it's not in the private sphere of a museum or gallery. It is out in the open. And so that says something. And where dollars go to support the public art, it gives voice to the concepts that are being said and held there. I'm happy to introduce Quinn Hunter as a recent graduate of Ohio University's MFA program in sculpture and expanded practice. And when Jackie had approached me to be on this panel, she was asking if I had any ideas about alumni who would be a good fit. And I thought of Quinn immediately, both because she's an amazing artist, a celebrated artist. She received the Billman Award, which is an internal, was it $5,000 or $6,000 dollar award, and the SEA grant, which is the Student Achievement Award, and was also awarded a residency at Chautauqua Artist Residency, all within the past 2 years. And yes, I mean, she's amazing. But I want to, am I able to share my screen really quickly? Am I, have I been awarded, go ahead.
If not, John Rogers will take care of that momentarily, so.
You have access.
Okay. Thanks. Oh, okay, I'm not going to share my screen. Sorry, new computer, new office, new everything. I think I have to set my preferences. But Quinn, another reason why I wanted to ask Quinn to be a part of this panel, it was a few years ago, she created this plaque cast in bronze, which sits still on Richland Avenue's bridge, right over here on campus, marking the place where Christopher Davis had been lynched in 1881 as a very subversive guerrilla sort of graffiti move. There's a wonderful article for those of you who would like to research more on WOUB. Just Google Quinn's name and you'll find it. But that led, again, when I was saying about the visibility of public art, it's important to give voice to those who maybe haven't been able to voice their opinions, but her action directly led to a site marker sanctioned by the university right outside Baker University Center. So thanks, Quinn, for bringing that bit of history to the forefront of our campus. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Quinn to talk about maybe your feelings on public art.
Sure. My name is Quinn Alexandria Hunter, and I was a sculpture and expanded practice MFA student for 3 years. I graduated in 2020, and I was really interested in sort of bringing lost and forgotten history sort of back to the forefront of the minds of people that live within that sort of contemporary space. And so I think public art really allowed that access to happen. The piece wouldn't have been as successful if it were in a gallery, because it's not really for the public at that point. Galleries and museums represent barriers versus things that are sitting out in the open in the field are accessible, 365 days a year, sometimes 66 days a year if it's a leap year, and 24/7. And so really accessibility in public art is a huge thing. And I think it's the first pieces of art that people have experience with when you're walking in a park with your family or going for a run. They become like these core parts of our lives. And so when they're missing, it's really obvious. So I did choose to pursue studies at Ohio University because I had a previous mentor, actually 2 previous mentors that were completely unrelated that came from Ohio University. And I felt at that point that Ohio University must be the place for me if I'm drawn to people that come from Ohio University. And really what helped make the decision after visiting the university was the tuition waiver, not having the burden of paying for tuition while pursuing my studies. And then really one of the choral faculty actually ended up being for me Courtney Kessel, who is honestly my biggest cheerleader to this day, and then Dwayne McDermott, who's the head of sculpture and expanded practice. Those 2 are just out here for everyone and really just want to see everyone succeed.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Matthew, Courtney, and Quinn. I'm so pleased to introduce our last panelist, Lynnea Stevens. Lynnea, I know you have studied specifically some of the art on the Ohio University Athens campus, so I'm really pleased that you're able to join us today. Would you share some of your insights and observations with our guests?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I am a current master's student in the art history program. And as part of my duties as a TA for the art history department, I got to teach a general education course called Seeing and Knowing the Visual Arts. And it was basically like an Art 101 course for undergrads, but one of the cool things about it is that we incorporated a lot of this public exterior art. So as a part of teaching this, I also got to learn a lot about the exterior and interior art on campus. Apparently there used to be a functional war cannon on the Civil War Memorial, and they had to remove it after students fired it twice. And these pieces themselves have a lot of really great history, and I was able to dig through a couple of archival pictures on our digital archives and find some older pictures of these same sculptures that exist today. So let me go ahead and see if I can share my screen real quick. Okay. All right. So, such as this one, which was taken during the anti-Vietnam War protests in the spring of 1970, which actually led to the campus getting shut down and graduation being canceled that year, which was kind of ironic because exactly 50 years later in 2020, also when that spring graduation was canceled. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, this is the Civil War Memorial, and it's just really interesting to just walk past pieces like this and see the way that students were interacting with it in previous generations. Similarly, you had mentioned, Matthew, the ceramics from Henry Lynn in front of Siegfried Hall. And I found this really amazing picture with him with the installation when it was first built. And here it is today, still standing proud. Um, and um, and I guess one of the things that I really appreciate about these works is how I think, like Courtney mentioned earlier, is how like interactive they are. Particularly with the graffiti wall near Baker. It's really cool to see how different topics that are important to the students at various times are on full display. Things such as COVID, Black Lives Matter, Pride Month. But there is the different kind of interactivity with the myelin input piece. And like you said, it's been finished within the last couple of years. They've added lights to it so that it's more legible in the dark. They've added trees to kind of give this a bit more of a communal space, to make it look a bit more intentional, for lack of a better word. But yeah, as I said earlier, I think my favorite piece on campus is probably the Alfred Elridge Arch. And just like I said, for the kind of just that, again, that sense of community. And it was actually originally installed in 1960. So you can kind of see some of Eldridge's very early work, how he had a lot more of these intertwining bodies that have this sort of classical idealistic sense of form. And then, you know, he moved on to more graphic primitivism with a lot of William Blake's poetry incorporated into it. So again, just the sense of like, in some ways, these pieces have been here for a long time, but at the same time, they're also continuously evolving. And then I remember my first semester, I came in fall of 2019, so right before COVID, perfect timing. We had a celebration of Eldridge's life. And there was, you know, a musical concert performed by his daughter and her band. There, you know, there was food, there was like artwork being made. We started out looking at his artwork in the gallery in Baker, and then we had a happenings parade where we all kind of migrated across campus, and there was like an accordion and we were waving flags, and it was just a very interesting experience. And so as proud as I am to have, you know, all of this artwork and be able to see all of this artwork across campus, I haven't been able to enjoy it, unfortunately, as much as I would have liked to, due to most of my academic career here being during COVID. But it really has been a pleasure to be able to tell these cool tidbits to like my friends and family, and other fellow students who walk across campus. It really is amazing how much rich, in-depth history there is in such a small town. Some of it is still there if you look for it, but some of it has already been all but forgotten, such as the Hotel Berry that used to be on Court Street, right in the heart of town. It is where the Court Street Diner, or the Hangover Easy, as it is now called, is today. It not only was a landmark of Athens history, but also African-American history. It was built and operated by Edwin, or Edward, different sources vary, Berry and his wife, Maddie Berry, in the early 1900s. It started out as an ice cream parlor, but then it evolved into such a popular hotel that presidents and celebrities would make stops there. And Booker T. Washington featured a chapter about Mr. and Mrs. Berry in his book, The Negro in Business. The Berrys also donated funds to the alumnus archway that is on the college green, and also to the building of Mount Zion Baptist Church, which to where they were also members. But unfortunately, like Quinn was saying earlier, a lot of this history has been forgotten. And the Hotel Berry was destroyed in the 1960s by the university to, I believe, create a parking lot, just because the building was in decay and it would have cost more money to, you know, renovate it than it would to destroy it. But we've lost so much of that history because of it. Fortunately, there is an opportunity, at least even though the Hotel Berry can't be saved, there is opportunity to save the Mount Zion Baptist Church, which is another pinnacle of African-American history here in Athens. And so the Mount Zion Preservation Society, for the past few years, has been making efforts to preserve this history. But Matthew, you had mentioned that you've been working with Tantrum Theater to help preserve the Berries' memory. Is that correct?
Yes, no, we have a really exciting project that we're glad to be able to share with you. We received 2 different National Endowment for the Arts grants last year to commission a playwright to help draw stories from Zion Baptist Church history and to connect that with our own artistic students and to create a new play about the Berry Hotel and the Zion, Mount Zion Baptist Church. And so you will be able to see that in a public professional equity performance about a year from right now. The playwright was so excited about the project that actually she finished it much faster than we all anticipated. So we're not quite ready to produce it yet, but it's going to be programmed for the fall. So we hope that everybody can come to campus and see it at that point. It's really wonderful for us to be engaging in our local stories in such a profound way. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, Lynnea.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. We actually we have a question from Rick Hawkins. Rick.
Hey, this is really a fascinating discussion, and thank you for putting this together. I was on campus when schools closed down during the Vietnam War. I live in Austin, Texas, and I have a long-standing collaboration with the university through John Kopchik, who's the Gall, Ohio professor of molecular biology. And I've come back on campus quite often, and actually I was a scholarship football player during that time. And this fall is the 50th anniversary of the of that team that I played on, the senior team. Anyway, this would be really fascinating for Lynnea, if you had such a tour of campus, an art tour of campus, it would be absolutely wonderful. I bet there would be a number of people returning who probably haven't returned in a very long time, would not just want to see the campus, but would want to understand and see some of the history of through the art that has been created there over the years.
I may be stepping into a. Oh, sorry, Lynnea, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, that sounds like it would be a lot of fun if my legs wouldn't wear out too quickly.
So all right, so I'll get a cart to push you around in, and we'll get. I think there may be some interest in showing some folks around. I want to maybe circle back with you because I know that there'd be a number of people who would love to have that kind of tour, and which is a very different kind of tour than most folks would get at the campus.
Well, honestly, that sounds fantastic, and I would very much enjoy. I basically talk my friends' ears off about art and art history, so it would be nice to have the opportunity to do that for people who actually care.
I don't know. The dean is on, so maybe some funds be set aside to actually develop that kind of tour of campus. So Lynnea, when you're long gone, you could pass the torch to somebody else, because I think it would be very interesting for a lot of students to participate in.
Well, and I think, and Matthew, maybe you know the answer to this, or if not, we can find out. But I believe the university was working on an art walk map so that folks would be able to do a self-guided tour as well. So they'd be able to, and I think a guided tour is a wonderful idea, also obviously. But for those who are, Courtney has it in her hand. So Courtney,
I just put in the chat a map that had been started, and it's interactive, so you can scroll around on the Ohio University campus. So I imagine that could serve as sort of a self-guided tour. And I'm not sure where these live. Matthew, do you know? Have you ever?
That's a good question. I have a few copies in my office, but they were in the advancement office. Let's see if we can figure out where they live.
Yeah, and we will.
They're cool.
Can I give you my my email address or my home address? You can send me one. I'll write it in the chat.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Rick. And Rick, I wanted to just mention something really exciting for you, is that, as you might know, we're sort of renewing our geological physics sciences court area. We've got new chemistry building there. There's a beautiful corner that's now green, but doesn't have anything on it. And we're just completed our request for participation for a really huge, exciting piece of public art for that space that's going to help identify that as sort of an area for science and contemplation. Our goal is to get something that's interactive and has place for people to sit. Of course, we want something safe, but I'm really excited that we're going to have a new piece of art out there.
Well, that sounds great. You know, I agree with you. I have actually been to Grand Rapids, and Austin, Texas is a big artist community. In fact, the head of the art movement here, I mean, there in Grand Rapids, came directly from one of the museums here. And it's one of the things that brings students back to a place and connects them in a new way. As I said, I know that the university is always trying to do that as an underlying premise. And if you're able to do that in a new way with that art tour, I think it would be I think it's a great way to do it.
Love it. Love it. And I saw Dave, good to hear from you, suggested maybe we try it out with the foundation board in November. I'd love to. It's a good time of year to do it. But I think that's a great idea, Rick. I appreciate it. Somebody asked me in the chat who the playwright was for the Mount Zion project, and the playwright's name is Jacqueline Lawton. So check her out. It's pretty amazing.
I think we have a few more moments. Are there other questions?
There's a question from Mike Worley. If you all have been to Storm King, which is in upstate New York, which I have been there, and there I ever talk about something like that for On the Ridges, that would be a fantastic idea. The Dairy Barn Arts Center had sort of thought about doing something along those lines on the Ora Anderson Trail that would be an outdoor sculpture park. And it was many moons ago that I worked there as the exhibitions person when we were sort of playing around with that idea. So a partnership with them would be really interesting too, up at the Ridges.
Oh. Are there other?
I thought I'd mention a couple of other things, which I think is really special about some of the public art. So I loved Lynnea's point about how the Ethelred mural in the overhang is still sort of living, and we still interact with it. I just received a piece from a faculty emeritus art worker who's probably the world's premier. Well, not probably. He is the world's premier printmaker, no question. I've never seen anything quite like it, but he has actually created a piece for Ohio University that has dancers interacting with the figures in the Ethelred mural. We are really figuring out how, I've got just a limited run and trying to figure out how we can connect that to those people who most strongly support the arts at Ohio University. But I'm super excited that continues to be iconic for us. But of course, Ethelred painted it not just twice, but he painted it several times and made lots of edits, because for him it was a living document. The art never ended, and that's one of the wonderful things about public art. I think Input Park is another example where one of the things we refreshed, which you might not know until you go to the piece, is inside each of these cubes or rectangles set in the ground is poetry by Maya's brother Tan, who also grew up in Athens. And it's all poetry about what does it mean to be in Athens. And so that's all been renewed. You couldn't read it for a while because it had worn off a little bit. But I invite you to go and really interact with that piece and make that living for you and connect with what you think about Athens next time you're on campus.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you to Matthew, to Courtney, Lynnea, and Quinn. We really appreciate it, and thank you to all of you who have joined us here today. I think we've all learned a lot, and I know, like I said, the beauty of I think what Matthew and everyone is it really does stop you in your tracks sometimes when you walk past. I know for me the mural, and I've already forgotten the Etheridge. Did I get the name right?
Ethelred,
Etheridge,
Eldred.
thank you.
Yeah.
Is truly, it really does stop you in your tracks when you see it, and it's just such a great way to spend time on campus. So again, want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you again to Dean Shaftel, to Courtney, to Quinn, and to Lynnea, and to all of you who joined us. And hopefully we will see you on campus with your art map in hand. And we'll know that we can all share a moment and say, yes, we were together, and we're together in spirit as we go through campus and see the event or see the artwork. So thank you all so much. This has been truly a joy.
Thank you.
all so much.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.